Hello, I'm Carl Anderson, Supreme Knight of the Knights of Columbus. Welcome to this special television series, Into the Breach. Today our church is facing a crisis, the painful signs of which are all around us. We risk losing a generation of Catholics, our sons and our daughters. The solution to this crisis requires Catholic men to step into the breach. This means waking up to the truth that we are in a battle for the hearts and minds of every man and woman, and that each of us has a crucial role to play in this historic moment. Inspired by Bishop Thomas Olmsted, we have produced a 4-part TV series that provides training and encouragement to help us fulfill that role. In these challenging times, our families and our parishes need our faithful witness more than ever. It is time for us to step into the breach.
One in 3 Catholic men that have been baptized have left the faith. Imagine you're in a battle and 1/3 of the soldiers go AWOL. There is a serious man crisis.
We want to be a hero. We want to fight for someone, for somebody, for a cause.
Authentic masculinity is living for excellence. Ideally, this is living virtue.
I would define authentic masculinity 2 ways. One is in the image of Christ crucified. That is masculinity. Second is the embracing of responsibility and not running from it. That is what it means to be masculine, is to embrace it and do your absolute best to live it to its highest purpose.
To meet the needs of others oftentimes means saying no to self. And that's what separates the men from the boys.
Boys think about themselves, and men think about others. Ephesians 5, it says, "Husbands, love your wives like Christ loved the church." Male spirituality is this call to lay down our lives for our bride. For married men, of course, that's for your wife and children. For priests, it's the same thing. I'm called to lay down my life for my bride, the church, and all of my spiritual children.
I think when we don't believe in God, then all of a sudden, why live above our base self? Women aren't calling men to be better. So for millennia, the woman would call you to be faithful. She would call you to be committed. She'd call you to be open to being a father and to being a good husband. And without that call, we're not being called to be better. We lack good men to follow. You know, we live in a fatherless generation.
Equality does not mean sameness. All those things, that search for equality is something very good, but not to the diminishment of the unique attributes of women. And so women have these incredible gifts, and when they're nourished, they can flourish.
This is something we have to understand as Catholic Christian men right now, is the disconnect that our culture is trying to make between the unity of our body and soul. God himself took on a body and joined himself fully to our human nature in a human body. So the first thing we have to do is reclaim that reality and say, no, the body and it alone makes visible what is invisible. The body reveals the person.
Christian masculinity is always going to take as its most basic point of reference the mystery of Jesus Christ, who gave himself unto death. He's making that gift as the perfect man, but he's also making that gift to the church. He's also showing us what it means to be father, husband, and he's showing us the kind of love that God has for us, a love that seeks communion, a love that seeks and serves the good of the other in a fruitful union.
Grew up in a very strong Catholic family. My father was a deacon since I was age 6. My father was a wonderful man, tremendously busy. There was a lack of direct fatherhood during that time. There's a lot of peer-on-peer education. And for me, I was too easily influenced by it. I did have the question, what does it mean to be a man? And I tried several experiments as a college athlete, trying to live male-female relationships in a typical knucklehead college athlete way. And the question, what does it mean to be a man, did not have a super clear answer. And then I met my wife at the Newman Center at ASU. I saw her across the chapel, and she was an extraordinary minister of the Eucharist. Just looking at her smile, I felt the pure love of God. Meeting her focused my life on becoming the kind of man that was worthy of building a life with her. All of a sudden, I was encountering better friends. All of a sudden, a priest came into my life who got a group of us together as men and started teaching us how to pray. Those experiences came together to move me and to make me open to the instruction on what it means to be a man. Authentic masculinity would be a man integrating all of his God-given powers to become someone who brings life, someone that lays down his life for others, someone that becomes a provider for others, and someone that is, in the spiritual realm, an important leader. One of the prayers I pray is I drive up into the parking lot. I just say, self-empty, Lord, help me to be empty of what I'm carrying right now so that I have room for my family. We want this question answered in our lives. What does it mean to be a man? And real relationships will lead us to the answer to that question. And that means you got to put your phones away. That means you got to put the screens away. God will put all the people in your life that you need. Seek the question to be answered and become a man.
The Christian faith has been watered down to make us think that love is allowing anyone to do whatever they want. We need to recognize that that's not what Jesus did. That's not what discipleship is about. We have to be willing to stand up, to bear responsibility, to proclaim truth, but to do it in love. And I think we take that and we think that Christianity is weak. But when we look what Jesus did, they strike him in the face. He stands up, confronts the man face to face, stares him in the eyes, and says, "Why did you hit me?"
A man is defined by the ability to act. The opposite of manhood in the Catholic tradition is effeminacy. And what is effeminacy? It doesn't mean to act like a woman. It has nothing to do with being feminine. There's a genuine virtue to femininity. And effeminacy is not being feminine. It's a softness of the will where I become habituated to wanting to be entertained and to be basically more and more passive. We've taken the masculine, fatherly, paternal images of love out of the equation, and we have only half the vision of what authentic love is. And we end up with a soft Christianity.
Our masculine nature means something because it's for something. And the fact is that God wanted that reality to be so obvious that he stamped it into our bodies. You see that God wrote into our physiology that calling, that end, that purpose. And then we ask ourselves, well, then what's the fullest and most integrated expression of that reality?
Authentic masculinity is found in fatherhood, right? Like fatherhood is the end of masculinity. And so within that context, then masculine love takes the form of being a protector, being a provider.
We still need to be providers and protectors of our families because it might not be a physical enemy. It might not be a soldier or a burglar who's trying to break into our homes, but it might be the internet. We are called as men to protect our family.
We have to attack Satan. We don't sit back and just try to ward him off, but we go forward with our faith. We put on the armor of God, and every single day try to slay that dragon.
First thing I would say to a guy that thinks this is too big for him is it's not. Like, you're made for this. You are made for greatness. You're not God, and don't think of yourself as God, but you are made in his image, and you are made in the image of the Father in a particular way. So you are made for this fight. You are made for this battle.
St. Augustine once said that a friend, a brother in Christ, is half a man's soul.
Ask yourself, why do men like Saving Private Ryan and The Lord of the Rings and the Band of Brothers TV series? Why do they watch them over and over and over? Why do they talk about them? They want to be in the movie. They want to be one of those heroic men that has that camaraderie.
Iron sharpens iron. I love that verse. The reality is there's something that men can do for other men that children can't do, that wives can't do, moms can't do, but men can do for men. There's something that men can only get from men.
A true friend is going to be there for you when you need them the most, when you're suffering, when you're going through trials. Men have a special bond when they go through adversity. It means a lot, and it helps to just say, hey brother, I'm here for you. I'm praying for you. I'll always be here for you.
The church has always believed in this idea of a band of brothers. Christ built the original band of brothers, the 12 apostles. That's how the faith is passed along. Sadly, most men in society do not have a band of brothers. 1/3 of Catholic men don't have a single man that they know on a first-name basis in their parish. Another third only know a couple of men on a first-name basis. Men are desperately lacking that bonds of brotherhood within their parishes.
To understand brotherhood in Christ, we would want to reflect on the mystery of Christ becoming man, sharing his life with us, but also in becoming man, revealing the love of the Father in a new way. God is Father, not just as a distant creator, but he's Father in himself for all eternity as God who is Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. And Christ, in revealing this mystery, also shares his own life with us, so much so as to make us children of the Father in a new way, brothers of Christ.
The Eucharist is a sacrifice. What difference does this make? The Eucharist is the source of our life. It's the source of our own covenant identity. What is it that members of a family share in common? Flesh and blood. What is it we receive in the Eucharist? Christ's own flesh and blood. And because it is the resurrected body of Christ, he who is now immortal empowers us who are mortal to carry our crosses, and not just in the last hour of death, but each and every hour of life, so that we can die to ourselves and die to the world and live for each other. And this is what makes us a band of brothers. This is what really fosters fraternal solidarity.
After September 11th, and as a son of refugees, I felt my patriotic call. I had to come back and serve the country and pay back a debt for the freedom that they were able to give and bless my family with. Currently, I'm an Operations Sergeant Major for United States Special Operations Command. I'm a Master Jump Master, which is a paratrooper who is in charge of running jumps and running airborne operations. We look at ourselves as that archangel leaping from the heavens, jumping into a combat zone and landing upon the grounds to free people from tyranny and oppression. I don't think there's any better view than that of the heavens above you and the earth below you. Men need a band of brothers, especially in the military. You need someone to be able to rely on. When I was deployed to Afghanistan, the chaplain that was assigned to my unit was Chaplain Father Alan Irizarry. He became my spiritual guide, my spiritual advisor. When we did have that downtime, we were able to make rosaries, and we'd bring them over to Father Alan and have him bless them. He helped me learn that I wanted to be a better Catholic. I attended Mass, I went through the motions, I knew the prayers, but I didn't have that drive to learn more. Father Alan gave me that direction and that purpose to teach others about it. It gave me a reason of why we were doing what we did. A great Catholic friend is someone who is not afraid to tell you when you're wrong, when you're doing something that's out of line with your faith, or when you're doing something that's unethical. They're the one that's gonna pick you up when you fall, because there are going to be times where we stumble and we fall, but it's those moments where we get back up that really define our character of who we really are. From my military experience, standing in the breach is the most dangerous part of any mission. There have been multiple times that I was in a firefight, knowing that the person to my 12 and then the person to my 6 was a brother that I could rely on. Do whatever it takes to complete the mission and do whatever it takes to make sure that you don't fall on the battlefield is very important. When someone stumbles, we need to be able to carry them. We never leave a man behind. The Eucharist is the body and blood of Christ. When we finish Mass, we're told to be that Eucharist to the world. We must act like Christ. And if we can do that together as a group of brothers, that's where we can make a true difference. There's nothing wrong with being individual to find out who you are, but there's always something greater to find a better cause, and that should always be Christ.
What people don't realize is that when iron is sharpening iron, sparks fly. It's not a pat on the back. It's metal's heated and beaten and then pulled up against another piece of metal, and it's sharpened, and its sparks are flying. It's intense. I'm a beaten up piece of metal, and I need you, Father, and I need you, brothers, to come alongside of me and help sharpen me to be used by God as a sword.
What's required for fraternal correction is an honesty that will engender conflict. But we're afraid of conflict. We want tolerance, which is very soft and sounds good, but oftentimes is dishonest. And what we need is prophets and men to stand up for the truth and fight for reform.
I think if you look through history, one of the things that's striking is when there's a group of saints that come forward, they come in clusters, there's groups, we inspire each other on. Your life is designed to be a team sport. We're supposed to be traveling together, and in a world of social media, we have a lot of friend contacts, but not a lot of human interactions. So this level of accountability that comes from friendship and the power of what it means to share life with somebody is something that's evaporating in our culture, and something that we really want to try to do all we can to foster deep, authentic friendships, because it makes us better.
I think it's valuable to ask the Lord where's a man out there that needs a real friend, and show me who that person is and help me to approach them in the way that they need. You see in a lot of men today that one of the loves that's missing in their life is this love of brotherhood.
Leadership is not about temperament, but about character. Leaders are not born, they're made because they have practiced character.
If you ask the average man, are you a good leader and protector and provider of your family? The vast majority of men are doing their best. They are trying to lead and protect their families, but the goods of the material world are temporary. If we really want to do the best for our wives and for our children, we have to lead them to eternity.
This term, servant leader, is important for us men to understand. Jesus is a servant. Came to serve, not to be served. Jesus is leader. Come follow me. So we who follow him, we have to be both. If we are just leader, we're susceptible to pride. If we're just servant, we also can be susceptible to mediocrity. I must hold them both.
Often we hide behind this false notion of humility. It becomes a certain spinelessness. To be a pushover, to abdicate the public sphere. Service is strong. It is meekness and zeal combined together. That you serve a cause that's higher than yourself. We are all called to be leaders, to really achieve greatness in whatever sphere that you are called to.
Being a man is about service, right? It's about living our life for another. To be a servant leader is to love the other person, and to love the other person, you have to die to self.
I kind of equate this to martyrdom. A lot of guys are like, I'd be willing to die for that, but they're not willing to live for it. And guess what? If you're not willing to live for it, you probably won't have what it takes to die for it eventually.
So as fathers, I think you can have two extremes. You can have the extreme of, I just bark orders and expect you to follow. Or this idea of, I'm just not connected. I just kind of go through the motions. And that idea of servant leadership looks at the virtue, the middle ground of saying, what do I need to do to help my children excel, to know Christ, but also how do I shape them as a human being? And so it's really looking to say, what do I need to do to serve, and then doing it.
Oftentimes, the concept of servant leadership is used as an excuse to abdicate the strength and authority that's required in genuine and authentic leadership. Whereas we need to understand that leadership itself is a service, because leadership itself is humility and magnanimity in action. That is to say, pursuing and achieving greatness by bringing out the greatness in those that I lead.
You know, Aristotle was used to say that a magnanimous man is a man who considers himself worthy of great things. Well, when you think about that in terms of Christianity, you see what the people that really considers themselves worthy of great things are the Christians. Because you're a son of God. There cannot be something higher than that.
So I left home in 1977, got on a plane for the first time, went to Colorado Springs, then I entered the Air Force Academy. Lucky enough to go to pilot training, and so that was really the beginning of my career. Got to fly fighters for 30 years. I got to fly the A-10, the F-117, the F-16. I got to command at the squadron level, got to deploy to Saudi Arabia with 300 people. I commanded overseas about 10,000 people. So you go from someone who is just, very much focused on the machine and maybe your pilot brothers, those who operate machines with you, to the broader organization. It's the most rewarding part of your career is when you see people thrive. Servant leadership in the military, you can use your authority to lead, or you can use your leadership ability to get people to follow you. You have to smell like the sheep. You have to spend time with them. I wouldn't ask anybody to do anything that I wouldn't do myself. So it's willingness to do those unpleasant tasks, to sweat and bleed and suffer with others. St. Francis of Assisi gave up everything to be among the common people, to beg, basically gave his life, a very comfortable life, up to serve Christ. Mother Teresa of Calcutta, she would go out in the streets of Calcutta, find people that were in gutters with maggots and stuff in their wounds, and hug them and clean them. Padre Pio, one of my favorites, would stay for hours hearing confessions and doing everything to bring people to God. Christ died on the cross, and I think that's the ultimate example of servant leadership. I think God made us all capable to do things that we never in a million years thought that we were going to do. And in fact, there's that saying, let go and let God. I think that applies a lot to leadership. Have the courage to get in that situation, step into the breach. Leadership implies that you're bringing people with you. Sometimes you can lead from the front, sometimes you can lead by example, sometimes you just have to slam dunk and say, we're going to do it this way. As long as you respect the other, those who are coming with you, people over the long term will follow you, even if you have to do things that are unpleasant for them over the short term.
Often we confuse leadership with merely being in a position of power. These are the leaders because they have power, or these are leaders because they have influence. This isn't true leadership necessarily. Leadership is the virtues specifically of magnanimity and humility. Magnanimity is the habit of striving for greatness. It's the recognition that you are made worthy to accomplish great things. And humility is the habit of living in the truth, which means the truth about myself and the truth about others. That is to say, self-knowledge, which can then flow through my skills, my talents, my gifts, and my virtues into service of the others.
First, you need magnanimity to say, I am not just a sinner, I am a son of God. And I want to live out my divine sonship. And I want to help people discover this divine sonship in their lives. We love the word service, but we don't understand what greatness is about. So we become small. Small in our breathing, of thinking, of doing things. And we have to rediscover the virtue of magnanimity.
When I think of Christ, I think of servant leadership. I think of Holy Thursday. I think of when he takes off his robe and he puts the towel around his waist and he washes the feet of his apostles.
What was the main mode of transportation back at the time of Jesus? It was walking. They were a pedestrian society. So he got to somebody's house. Who came and washed your feet? The lowest ranking servant. And what does Jesus say? If I don't wash your feet, you can have no part of me. I have not come to be served, but to serve. So headship is rooted in service. A man is the head of his family precisely because he is the chief servant of his wife and children.
Jesus shows us a fundamental truth, which is the most important level of leadership is self-control. And so you need to have men who are living the virtues.
Self-mastery is about restraining evil passions and desires, but also I need to energize noble passions. If you simply restrain, you become boorish and tasteless. You need to be able to yourself be excited and be driven, because then you can draw other people along with you and help them achieve truly great things. Life is short, and eternity is long. We may like the idea of virtuous leadership. We may be inspired by the idea of going into the breach. But so long as we remain sitting in our chairs and not jumping in, we remain just spectators and we're not engaging in the fight. I'm reminded particularly of a quote by Archbishop John Ireland of the late 19th century. The need in the church today, the need in the world, is of men among men who can rise higher, who can see further, who can strive more nobly than others. They need not be many. They never were many. But though the few, they will rise and bring with them the whole of humanity.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Into the Breach. To watch our complete video series online, please visit kfc.org/Into the Breach. If you want to embrace the challenge of entering into the breach and putting your faith into action, I encourage you to join us and become a Knight of Columbus. Today we are 2 million strong and growing. Learn more about the Knights and discover how you can join online at kfc.org/join.